Hey guys, so today's video I wanted to talk about the drifting change that is coming to Switch in around a month. As you can see there, I use my nitro at the very start of this race, and that is because I am on auto excel, and if you press the excel button that you usually hold down when you're on gasless or not auto excel drifting, you don't get nitro, but if you use it there, it's the nitro button. So I've been playing a little bit of A9 with this auto excel on, and honestly, it's I don't know if it's worse or better. It's different. I can say that obviously. Like, look at this turn right here. The KMH dropped to like 280 with that turn, and that's normally a turn that you can hit with this car at like maybe 340 if you gasless. And so that's very jarring. But if you look at other portions of the tracks, it's like I still have a lead. I'm still doing good. It's just certain parts are very different. And that's obvious because you're losing more speed and you're not going as wide, which is what Switch players have been used to this whole entire time. But in 1 month's time, we're going to be going on to global controls. And this first race shows that it is possible to beat Switch players with, you know, the auto excel. You still have to be very good and very aware of what you're doing, but a lot of the stuff is the same. There are differences though, as you'll see in this race. Now, last race wasn't very like you didn't have to drift that much, but this one you do. This next turn coming to the right, I drift the exact same way that I usually do with gasless, but check this out. It the speed goes to like 310 and I ram into the wall. Usually my car pushes out a little bit and it's all good, but I hit the wall there. And these next few turns afterwards, I do it the exact same and as I would on Switch, and they are the exact same. This part though, I would usually nitro leech that entire straightaway to get shockwave there, but um, with auto excel, it's like you can't hold down a nitro leech for as long as you do on Switch. Because on Switch you could do it infinitely. Theoretically, you could just do it whenever, because all you're doing is holding a drift. But your drift actually stops um, when you're using auto excel unless you're actually turning the car. So a straight line drift like that won't do anything, and it'll just stop. And that was really difficult for me to figure out. And as well as these ground 360s to try to get a floaty drift. Like, don't do what I'm doing. I At this point I was just like, man, I have a lead. I might as well go for it. But if you fail the ground 360 once, don't go for another one. You just gotta build up speed. The only way that you're gonna save time with a floaty drift and a ground 360 like that is if you're already near your top speed, or else it's like, what's the point? Now, this next track is still with the 570S, and it is on a track called Rush Minute. This track is a lot less technical, I would say, than the Greenland one. Like, that drift right there, usually you go wide and you have to, like, uh, hard drift or gas on drift to get that turn. But since you're already on gas on drift, you can make that, like, really consistently. And still, like, this guy that I'm against, Don X, like, he's not a bad driver. Like, he's decent, I guess. And even with like auto excel, I'm still keeping up with these people. Like, this part right here looks super natural, and if you were only to look at this part right here, you would think, wow, even this turn right here, wow, this guy is just on switch controls. I mean, sure, you dropped a little more speed there, but most players would have a speed around that like your speed would drop that much on that turn. Basically, is what I'm trying to say here. And so that race made it look normal, but I was still on auto excel there and on global controls. So after testing out the McLaren, I wanted to test out a car that was more agile. So I went on to the Neo EP9, and this car has such a good handling stat. And my prediction is that, well, it's not even a prediction. It's more of like, this is true. If a car has better handling, it's going to be better on global controls. So this is Neo EP9 on a Caribbean track. And so this turn on the right, usually I would drift, but now I have such a good handling. I'm just gonna blue nitro this, and I usually just drift right there. But yeah, everything right now is like, damn, I am still going way ahead of people, and I'm just driving normally, and I'm still like, I'm barely drifting. I don't think I've drifted yet, So I wanted to try out a global strat here where you go straight and then you do a hard drift, and then if you have shockwave, that is faster, and that is so much faster because otherwise you would have to do two drifts on that right side to get it, and yeah. So I think learning a strat like that is such a good thing to do. It's definitely something that only global can do because on Switch you overshoot it like 90% of the time, and yeah, this was such a good lap, but I wanted to lose points, so I didn't want to go into Legend League, so I crashed. Next race, I'm now on the Apollo N on St. Peter's Kickoff. I did the thing again where I accidentally pressed the Excel button because I'm so used to it that I used Nitro at the start. Don't do that, that's bad. I do the drift thing here to get Shockwave. I'm, you know, there's a global strat here where you blue Nitro here to save a drift, because drifting it's not theoretically bad, but it is worse. I still crash, and usually on Switch here I would drift to get like a little bit more Nitro to Shockwave here, but it's better after you crash to not drift at all or not go for anything because obviously drift is gonna kill your speed a lot more. So yeah, here I decided to try do a floaty, but I messed it up by 360 the wrong way. That's the hardest thing about floaties, especially on tilt. Like, if you want to turn left, you have the floaty to the right. If you want to turn right, you have the floaty to the left. It's difficult to just wrap your head around it at first. And even certain stuff that I do normally on St. Peter's Kickoff, like that ramp, that small ramp that I just went on, uh, I usually land and do a punch nitro there, and it never hits the wall. But I did the exact same thing that I usually do, and it hits a wall. So that's something to learn and look at. So that's some stuff that is like hidden beneath the surface level of like drifting equals worse speed. It also equals tighter speed, equals tighter drifting, and even small turns like that, it still affects it. And now I'm on my favorite car, the Aston Martin Valhalla, and this track shows that like certain Switch tracks could get the exact same time almost identically because this track, if you think about it, just doesn't, like, you don't have to drift much. Like, you don't have to do much drifting to get a good lap here. Like, this whole entire front section, it's like still there was one drift, and I went to like I dropped maybe like 10 km/h from it, which is crazy. And even this turn, like, you don't have to drift it. Like, this is a strategy that you guys are gonna have to learn playing ALU. Like, certain turns, you just don't drift anymore. Like that one right there, it's gonna be such a big learning curve for some people. Um, but when I tried it out, I was surprised with the fact that like you can still get really similar times, and as long as you're focusing on what you're doing, it's not that bad. Like right here, I'm now having to nitro leech, but I had to do like three different small nitro leeches right there. You can go back and look at it, but I had to do like three small nitro leeches there to get the shockwave, which usually I don't have to. So it's stuff like that you really have to put your mind to and think about because it's stuff like that that gets unnoticed between the controls. And this is the final race of the video. It's still another Aston Martin Valhalla run. Um, yeah, this track, it's a redemption of the Greenland that I had on the 570S. You're still losing speed. Like that, those harsh left turns and those harsh right turns, like there's nothing you can do about it. Like you can punch drift, I guess. By the way, punch drifting is a lot better with global controls. So I recommend learning how to punch drift, learning how to floaty. But yeah, like these turns, like I'm going tight, and that's like the best thing about global controls. You can go really, really tight. Um, but yeah, like overall, I don't think the change, at least in multiplayer, is that drastic. Like you can still win races, but you're not gonna have you cannot expect to get the same times as you do right now on Switch. So that's all I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys next time, I guess.